So let's do the easiest thing first. Let's create a function for creating a new person. Let's double click the new button to make this button one click function here. And whenever this is clicked, we will say listbox1 dot items, and this is the list that's in that list box to the left. Okay, we can store anything we want in here, but we want to store a new person, just like this. So we'll add a new person to the list box, and since we're creating a new person like this, new person, the constructor that we wrote earlier will be called, and the default information will automatically be set. So we should see a person called new person, remember that was our default name, in the list. The last thing we want to do here is make sure the selected item in our list box is this new person we created. To do that, we can say listbox1 dot selected index equals listbox1 dot items dot count -1. So after we create the first person in our list, items dot count of the list box will be 1, and we want to highlight the first thing or the first index in our list. And remember, when we're dealing with lists and generally anything in programming, we start at 0. So we'll want to say count -1 because 1 minus 1 is 0. Okay? Basically, the -1 is just compensating for the fact that this always starts at 0. Okay? Let's press F5 and see what happens whenever we create a new person. I'm going to hit new, and okay, so it's sort of working. Notice that a new person has been added, alright, and it's been highlighted. We can hit another new person and see how the highlighted blue bar there, it keeps updating to the newest thing, right? So it keeps updating to listbox1 count -1. But notice that what's displaying here is addressbook.person, right? What we should want is the name of the person, which should be new person, all right? But C# doesn't know what should be displayed here in the list box, right? We have to tell it what to display. So luckily there's an easy way to do this. I'm going to create a new function called private void update display member, and the display member is the property that you want displayed in that list box, okay? So the property we would want displayed is the name of the person. So here to set that, we would just say listbox1 dot display member equals quote capital N name semicolon at the end. And we put a capital N here because we need to actually create a new property with a capital N that has this information. So if you go back to person.cs, notice that the public string name right here, this is not a property, alright? This is just a variable. But we're going to make a property called name with a capital N that basically just returns the name variable up here, okay? Nothing too crazy. I don't personally use properties a whole lot, but when you're doing when you're trying to update the display member, you have to make a property for it to work right, okay? So let's say public string name with a capital N, and then add some brackets down here, kind of like if it was a function. And here we'll say get bracket bracket, and this is kind of what defines it as a property, right? Whenever you have the keyword get, this shows C# that it's a property, and then inside get we will return whatever we want to be assigned for this property, okay? So in our case, we want to return name the variable, and that's basically it, okay? Yeah, I know this looks kind of dumb, like why are we making something to just return something else? But like I said, we're just doing this to kind of play along with C# so it updates that display member correctly. Alright, back in form1.cs, let's call our function up here in the form1 constructor. After we initialize our form, we will immediately call update display member, so it displays the names of our people. Let's press F5 and let's see if it works this time. I'm going to press new. Yeah, there we go. So now it's saying new person because that's what the name was set to automatically. So now we need to be able to come over here on the right side and start editing information. Alright. But before we do that, why don't we go ahead and make the remove button work, because that's also pretty simple. That should take just a second. I'm going to go back to the form1.cs view and double click remove. And here we have a new function, button 3 click. It's possible that the user can press remove even when there's nothing in the list. And that's going to create problems. That's going to make your program crash, because if you're trying to remove something that's not there, that's not valid code, okay? So the first thing we want to do is error check and make sure that there's something in this list. So we'll say if listbox1.items.count equals 0, return from this function immediately, because there's nothing in the list. Next we can say listbox1.items.remove at listbox1.selectedIndex. Okay, and remember that blue bar that shows what we have selected in the list box? Yeah, basically whatever that's set to is what we will remove. So if we're highlighting the first thing in the list, selected index will be 0 and we'll be removing at 0. Okay? Let's go ahead and press F5 and see what this does. I'll hit new, 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 and then I'm going to hit remove. Oh, and what happened? We lost our selected index. Looks like it's been set to nothing. We have to manually kind of click the next person. And that's kind of annoying. Usually if you see these types of applications, what happens is the selected index will be automatically adjusted to the next thing above us in the list. So let's go ahead and make that happen really fast. Right above that line, I'm going to say int saved index equals listbox1.selectedIndex. This way we remember what was selected before we removed it. Underneath the remove line, we can go ahead and set the listbox selected index accordingly. So, like I said, usually what we want to do is set the listbox1.index to the thing above us in the list, right? So we'll say saved index -1. But think about this for just a second. Think about the case where we had 3 items in the list. If we selected the third item in the list and executed this code, our selected index would be set to the thing above us, which would be the second item in the list. That works fine. But what if we have 3 items in the list and we select the first thing in the list and remove it? The selected index would be trying to set it to like -1, right, or something that was invalid, right? So this is only valid code if there's something above us. So basically there's 2 different cases that we're looking for here. If we have removed something that has items above it, we will just set the selected index to our index -1 to bring us 1 up. However, if we have just removed the thing at the very top of the list, there could potentially be some things below us that we would want to set the index to. Okay? And in that case, we would want to say, hey, are there other things in the list still? If there is, just set us to the first thing in the list, okay? Don't try to set us to like -1 or something, because that's going to crash it. So let's do a little error check here. Let's say if saved index -1 is greater than 0, we can go ahead and just say the index is saved index -1, right? That'll move us up to the thing above us. Else if listbox1.items.count is greater than 0, we will just set our selected index to 0. Okay? So if this second else if is being checked, we know our saved index is not greater than 0. So basically we want to see if there's something still in the list. If there's something below us, we'll just keep the index at the first position of the list. Let's go ahead and press F5 and see this in action. I'm going to press New 3 times. Now we can press Remove on the third thing selected, and look, it's been updated. It goes to the thing above us. I'm going to press New again, and then this time I'm going to go to the first thing in the list and try to remove this one, because this is the second case we are checking for, right? We should, yep, we should see it just like we did there. It goes to the thing that's below it, instead of going into a -1 index and crashing the program. So, yep, you can remove everything and it works as intended. I'm going to exit out. Okay, now we need to go back to form1.design, and whenever we click a new item in our list box, the selected index has been changed, and there's an event there called selected event changed. And when that event is called, we want to update this information over here on the right side with all of the current information that's being stored in the person we've selected. Okay, so if there's a person in here called Michael, and I click Michael, I want the full name over here to say Michael. I want my email address to be shown, right? We want all this to be up to date. So let's go ahead and double click the list box. And here is a function called selected index changed that is linked to that event. Okay. And in here, the first thing we want to do is say if listbox1 dot selected item is null, return. Okay, so if we have nothing selected in the list box, if the list box is empty, or we've just erased the last thing in the list box, we want to return, otherwise we're going to be accessing stuff down here that doesn't exist, and it will crash our program. Next, we want to get the person that we have currently selected. So I'm going to say person equals person listbox dot selected item. Okay, and selected item is just an object, which is a generic data type, right? We want to cast an object into the person class, so we have access to all of the things in the person class, like our name and birthday and so on, right? Because that's what we're going to be accessing. And here at this point, all we need to do is just set the value of those text boxes to have the information that's stored in this person. And actually, this might be a good time to actually name those text boxes. We forgot to do that earlier. Let's go back and very quickly, let's name the full name text box to be text name. Oops. Yep. Text name. The email address text box should be called text email. The street address name should be called text address. The birthday name should be called birthday picker. And the notes text box, let's call that text notes. Alright, sorry we didn't do that earlier, but it's actually going to make our lives a little easier. So instead of saying like text box 1 equals this, I don't even remember what was the first text box created, so this makes it easier. So now we can say text name.text equals person.name. Alright, and that sets the text box that displays our name to the name of this person. And same concept for everything else. Text email should be set to the person's email. The street address text box should be set to the person's street address. The birthday picker value should be set to the person's birthday. And finally, the notes text box should be set to the person's notes. Okay. Let's press F5. And whenever we create this new person, okay, yeah, see over here, this text box has been updated to display the name, new person. We still don't have anything being set here, in the email and street address because those values are currently nothing, so that's actually accurate. Let's go ahead and exit out. And we could go ahead and, technically we could start updating the information in those text boxes, but we don't have any way to actually save that information back into the person. Okay? So if we go back to Form 1 Design View, remember we have this Save button here. Let's double click Save. And whenever we're done editing the information for the person we've highlighted, we'll click Save, and Save will save all that information back into the person in the list box. Okay, so we want to start this function off similar to last time. If listbox1.selectedItem is null, we want to return. We don't want to do anything if nothing valid is selected in the list box. Just like last time as well, actually I'll just copy and paste this line. We want to cast the selected item object into a person because we know all of the items in our list box are people. So we'll cast that so we can easily access this data. And this will be kind of like last time too, but instead of setting the text boxes to the person's data, we're going to be setting the person's data to the text box. Okay, we're like reversing the information, right? So here we'll say person.name equals textName.text. Person.email equals textEmail.text. Person.address equals textAddress.text. Person.birthday equals birthdaypicker.value. And person.notes equals textnotes.text. Okay, so literally same exact thing as last time. We're just reversing the position of the information, right? Now we're saving the text box information back into the person. Last but not least, we want to call that function we wrote earlier called updateMember. And the reason for this is that we have potentially changed the name of the person we're editing. So we need to update the display member to have C# basically look at the names again and update that information so it's accurate. So let's go ahead and press F5. I'm going to add a new person. I'm going to call this person Michael Hicks. I'm going to press Save. Oh, and look, nothing happened. Over here it still says new person. But if we press New and create a new person, look, if the second person is highlighted, it says our name is new person. And then if we highlight the first thing in the list, it says our name is Michael Hicks. So the information is being saved, but what's not being updated is the display member in the list box. And basically what's happening is C# is saying, oh, update display member. Okay, let's do that, but you're saying the display member should be name. We've already set it to name, so we're just not going to update the information, okay? It already thinks it's set to the appropriate stuff. So to fix this, we'll go back to our update display member function. And at the very beginning of this function, we'll just say listbox1.displayMember equals nothing, okay? And then the second line, we'll set the display member to name. So basically this is kind of clearing out the display member, resetting it, and forcing C# to re-update all of that information in the list box, right? And let's press F5 and you'll see this in action. Same thing as last time. I'll create a new person called Michael Hicks. I'll hit Save. Press. Oh, okay, see, already it fixed itself. Now it says Michael Hicks. I'll press New, and now we have new person. I'll call this person John Doe. I'll hit Save, and look, now we have everything up to date. Right? We have Michael Hicks and John Doe in our list. All right, we're almost done. Remember earlier I said that we're going to save the, we still need to actually save out a file of all the people in our address book. We're going to save the saving and loading of files for the next video, but there is one last thing I'd like to do, and that is, a lot of times I forget when people's birthdays are, and some of my friends aren't even on Facebook. So I would like this application to immediately, upon startup, check for any birthdays and then display a message box saying, hey, this person has a birthday today, just to let me know who I need to go call or text or whatever to tell happy birthday. So let's make a new function for this. I'm going to call this function private void check for birthdays. And I'm going to create some local variables here, one called person and another string called birthdays. And we will use the birthday string to display our message of who all has a birthday, and we'll use this person variable to store the current person that we're looking at inside of the listbox1 items list. Alright. Now, basically, this is pretty straightforward. We just need to iterate through every person that's in our list and see if their birthday is equal to the date of today. Okay? So let's start the iteration. Let's say for int I equals 0. For as long as I is less than listbox1.items.count, we will say I++. Oops. Alright, and then in here we'll say person equals listbox1 items I as person. And remember, this is when we use the as keyword, that's basically trying to cast this as a person. If it can't do it, it will set person to null. So we'll say if person is not equal to null, we know a valid person is in this variable. If that person's birthday dot day equals date time today dot day, right? So date time today day is automatically storing whatever today is, okay? And if the person's birthday dot month equals date time today month, all right? So if the day, which could be, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to like the 31st, if the day is equal to today's day and we're in the correct month, right? So if this person's birthday is in August and the month is equal to August, we know it's this person's birthday. Okay? So here we can say birthdays plus equals person.name plus is plus the year of today minus the year the person was born. Okay, so basically this is 2017, and let's say I was born in 1993, so this would say 2017 minus 1993 equals 24. Okay, so it's telling us the person's age as of today. And we need to convert this number to string like that, and then we'll make the string nice and readable by ending it with today. So let me explain this a little further. If we detect that the person that we're looking at has a birthday today, we have a string called birthdays that stores every single person's birthday today, because it's possible more than one person has a birthday, so we need to account for that. So we will add a line of text that says person's name, which let's say it's Michael. Michael is 24 today. All right? And then this little thing at the end is called a new line. And whenever you do that, that's basically adding in a, on the keyboard, like when you press enter to start a new line, that's basically what this is doing. You won't see the text actually displayed, but it will start us on a new line. So if two people have a birthday, it'll put each person's age on a new line, okay? Outside of the for loop, if birthdays is not equal to nothing, then it has to be someone's birthday today, so we can go ahead and say message box dot show. We'll pass in the string that we've calculated, and then the second thing here is basically the title of the message box, and let's just say birthdays. All right. You'll see that in the top header, like up here you see address book, Microsoft Visual Studio. In our message box, the text here would say birthdays. That's the title of the form, okay? Last but not least, we need to actually call this function. I would say it's a good idea to call it as soon as the program starts. Let's just do it right here. After the initialize component, we'll say check for birthdays. The only problem is that right now we're not saving or loading files that have all the information our address book contains. So whenever we initially start this program, there will be no one in it. Okay? So for the sake of testing this out, I'm going to also call check for birthdays at the end of our button one click. So whenever we add a new person, it will check for birthdays. Okay? Let's press F5, and as soon as I hit new, we should see a birthday message box. Okay, and we do. New person is 0 years old today. Okay, because it says their birthday is today, literally. But let's go ahead and change 2017 to like 1993, because that's when I was born. I'll say Michael as the full name. Let's hit save, and then I'm going to make a new person, and we should see 2 birthdays being calculated here, okay? And we do. Notice at the top of the form, it says birthdays right here. It says Michael is 24 today, and then it starts a new line for the second person, and new person is 0 today. Cool. So that's working as intended. I'm going to go ahead and actually remove this function call from the button one click, because we know it works now. And the last step we need to do is actually save out information that's in our address book and load it in whenever we restart our application. And we will cover that in the next video, so I hope to see you guys there.